Hey guys, I wanted to welcome you to the MVP Coaching Corner where bro logic comes to die, covering nutrition, contest prep, PEDs, personal experiences, and coaching and just living the life of bodybuilding. This is Mark. We have Coleman and Bree. How are you both doing today on this Saturday?
I slept like a baby last night.
Did you? Besides
First time,
someone letting you?
first time, first time in a while.
Well, he took a lot of melatonin and had some breathe right strips, so he was good to go.
10 milligrams. 10 milligrams did it work.
Of melatonin?
Yeah.
We wanted to cover training for different divisions, and I think it's a super important topic, especially because we have a new division, wellness, which has only been in the States for about 3 to 4 years now. And also, like, classic physique is now a very, very big division. And obviously, there's a big difference between all the classes to an extent. Obviously, how you pose in all of them is a very big difference, but how you train for them as well is also drastically different as well because obviously you want to be able to fit into your class. No one wants to look like they don't belong. So
100%.
let's talk about what is looked for each class. So like Coleman, let's start with bodybuilding, right? I feel like this is like the most generic, it's probably the easiest one.
You
Right?
need everything. And if
Yep.
you are missing one part, you are incomplete. You're out of the picture. Doesn't matter.
Pretty much. So like here,
You
let's
could
go.
be you could be the most conditioned person on that stage, but if you are not complete, you're not making it. You
Exactly.
can have one guy. You can have one guy with a tad bit less condition, but he's complete. He's got everything head to toe. He's gonna win.
Exactly. So let's talk about the training aspect for this, right? So like we look at what male bodybuilding is. Let's start with that. I'm gonna go class by class. So we see here that everything is very developed. There really isn't a body group here that is underdeveloped at all. From the calves down to the quads, adductors, lats, everything. So there really isn't a body group here that's neglected, unlike in some other divisions. So I pretty much want to say the summary here when it comes to training for bodybuilding is everything needs attention. Everything
I
needs
think
a
the least
lot of
trained.
attention.
I
Mhm.
think the least trained would be glutes, if
Probably,
anything.
yeah, because they're
Glutes
hitting
are
it.
probably the most like the least amount of training for glutes, but mainly towards the end. Like once prep starts, most of the time everyone throws in glute kickbacks, hyper extension, stuff like that, just to start getting them in conditioning shape rather
Yeah,
than
and the big thing
just
is that
adding more muscle to it, which is where you go like wellness or bikini or something like that.
Right,
and
because
like
it's
we put
activated
size for
throughout.
size.
Go ahead.
No, we go.
So, I mean, you're using your glutes in different movements. They're still activated, so it's not like you need to isolate that specific body part because it's all brought up through your training.
Exactly. And we talk about like a male bodybuilder, right? An open male bodybuilder is using more PEDs probably than some other classes as well. They're normally moving much larger loads in general. I'm pretty sure most open bodybuilders are doing RDLs at a heavier weight than most bikini girls, right? So in general, they're getting more stimulation just through training in general. So a lot of direct work is not needed unless possibly they don't have the best mind and muscle connection for that specific thing, or like if you're like myself, when you squat straight down without a hinge. So when I squat, it's almost all quad and very little glute. So when it comes to me developing glutes, I have to have more hip hinging movements because the way I squat, the way I leg press is straight down with no bend. Um, but so I guess the best summary here is when it comes to open male bodybuilding, it's everything needs a lot of attention. There can't really be any gaps. And well, there's going to be some gaps, but the goal is to eliminate as many as physically possible. Um, but if we go into the next category, we'll go piece by piece. We'll go into classic physique, right? The biggest thing I always like to point out between classic physique and bodybuilding is just the general silhouette is different, right? Now,
And that
obviously,
comes down to structure.
yeah, and that's a big thing about it is that not everyone can be a classic physique competitor. And like I will personally say that I don't think I would, no matter what I did, I don't think I would ever be a good classic physique competitor because I think my structure is very boxy and I think my structure is very wide. I think I have wide hip bones and I don't think I would ever have a silhouette, especially at my height, that will look like this. So I think the biggest thing when I look at classic league when it comes to training is, in essence, training almost like an open bodybuilder. I don't think a training really is any different. I think the biggest thing here is going to be structure, which is
Yeah,
unchangeable. You can't change your structure from
I think
how
structure is
wide.
the biggest thing.
Yeah, like even from something like how wide his clavicle bones are here, for how narrow his hip bones are. Again, the silhouette is generally a little different. Now I will say, obviously, like there typically is a little bit more muscle mass in open bodybuilding, and that's strictly because there's no cap at a pro level. There isn't. I think that that's honestly one of the biggest differences that we do see. But I think at a local amateur level, pound for pound, it is exactly the same. Just posing and structure is one of the biggest things I would say is going to be difference. I will say though, I feel like they penalize you more in classic physique for imbalances. And by this, what I mean is, if you have a
Symmetry.
massive chest and your shoulders don't match, I feel like they penalize you way more in classic.
Yeah, they want.
Not aesthetic, right? It's not fluid.
Mm-hmm. So you can't really have like, you have to have like evenness across the board for it. There's no part that's really stuck out a lot bigger until you hit like the pro level and stuff like that. Then it's a little bit different. If you look at the Olympia, you had Chris Bumstead. Chris Bumstead's legs looked 10 times better this year than it did last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say in comparison, he looked like he had some better legs than some of the open guys,
I will.
conditioning
I will
wise.
say that. I will agree. I think
It was a picture Matt Jansen put up. That picture shows the level of legs that he had this year compared to it. Not on stage. It wasn't on stage. It was him backstage. But like, I would put that in comparison to some of the open guys. Like they were that good.
I will. I'll totally say that. And I want to say, like, maybe out of the gate for classic, conditioning was supposed to be a little softer,
Mhm.
and the sizing was supposed to be a little smaller. But us as fans have rewarded and praised size and conditioning across the board, across all divisions. So every division has evolved from the original guidelines. And I would pretty much say, pound for pound, Chris Bumstead could probably hang with any open bodybuilder similar to weight and height.
Yeah.
I think he would give Cedric McMullen a run for his fucking money, hands down.
I think he could be up there in the Arnold this year. If you felt like going to the Arnold and competing, if he showed up how he showed up at the Olympia, I think he would be a top 4, top 3.
I think so too. I think
I
top
think
four.
top 3. If I think just
I
based off
only
his
don't say
silhouette
that
and stuff
because
like
of height. I only say that because of height, and because like I think of like someone like Nick Walker, right?
Mhm.
Or or Samson,
Bonac.
right? Or even Bonac, right? They look very thick and round. And again, this is where the weight cap is a difference, right? So I know if he wanted to do open, he wouldn't have to. We've never seen Chris Bumps without a cap, right? That's the other thing too. We've never seen without a cap. And I feel like that'd be scary, kind of like how we saw Derek without a cap this year, right? And that was
Completely different person.
fucking mind blowing. So
And his shape was 10 times better. Everything
mhm,
came out, and all his pluses from when he was in 212 to when he became open became even better.
it amplified. Everything amplified.
Yeah. Yes. Especially
So
his shape.
this is kind of, it could be, I guess, a dumb question, but why do you think they still use caps um in like the amateur level instead of just doing it like for height like they do with women?
Yeah, so that's a great point, Bree. So I think the biggest thing is strictly going to be um time and maturity, right? So we definitely want people who are fairly new to the sport to be able to be rewarded at the beginning. I think that's one of the big things. And for bodybuilding, there's a lot of muscle required to entry, right?
Right.
So like let's just say at I'll use my height, I'm 5'8". At 5'8", um, you have people who range from 160 pounds to 240 pounds. And I think just you would always reward the mass monster if we did that. Now, this is the one thing I would definitely say. Between male and women, obviously PD usage and everything else being a big difference. But when you look at a lineup of girls, they figure, for example, and we'll go to figure for this. When we look at girls for figure, for example, if you go to a local show, there really isn't that much difference in size. For girls are all the same height. They're kind of close. Like obviously you have your exceptions of those who look national ready, right? They look like they're ready for the national stage.
Yeah.
But like, the size is kind of close. And normally I'd probably say they're all within 15, 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
If we did the same thing with men, I think we'd have like 50 and 60-pound jumps in between competitors. And just because of that, because like the sport of bodybuilding is in essence the goal is to be as big as possible while keeping conditioning and keeping a decent silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
While we look at like a class like figure in my mind is such a shape division. Because I'm strictly looking at the silhouette here. And since we're here, let's talk about a figure in general, right? Figure is all based by height. So like the silhouette is what drives someone forward. So when I look at a silhouette, I'm thinking of nice capped wide shoulders. I'm thinking of nice round lats. Thinking of a really tiny waist, really developed quads that aren't overly big, but are super.
Very proportionate. I think of it like as of like I think of it as of like a triangle like this.
Yeah, that's
Go
honestly
straight down. That's literally how you want it to be. Do you want it to be as wide as you can at the top, and as narrow as possible at the bottom, and as conditioned as you can possibly be, while keeping your quads without going too far out.
Yeah. And that's why like I strictly believe that like in male bodybuilding, if they just did it by height, literally what happened is just the biggest guy would win every show for the most part. It would almost look like, you know, like when you see the overall with male bodybuilding sometimes, and you just see all 4 weight classes or 5 weight classes based on how big the show was. Mm-hmm. Rarely do you see the lightweight or the middleweight win the overall. Right. It happens, but it's not super often, and it's strictly because typically conditioning and posing quality if it does happen. But overall, we normally reward size, and I would probably say if we took like the average, even like a pro level figure competitor, and we put her next to an amateur, a very good amateur figure competitor at an amateur level, I would say the size is probably within 10 or 15 pounds. Mm-hmm. It's going to be muscle maturity and muscle quality would probably be the biggest separating factor. Unlike you take someone who wins nationals, it's very rare to see someone who wins nationals. Nick Walker was one of the few examples that won nationals and then went and did a pro show and placed directly afterwards. Most men need like 2 years after a pro show to build more muscle to get to a pro size.
Yeah, just because of where it's at right now.
Yeah, for sure. And since we're here, I don't want to take too much time going through each division. Well, let's just look at wellness real quick too, because it's your class, Bree. So like, let's go this real quick. We look at wellness in general. Wellness is, in my mind, it's slightly more muscular bikini, but we reward it a little differently. We want more defined legs. We want bigger legs, and upper body is slightly more muscular. Not much more though. Not much more at all. Because we still take points off for traps. We still take points off for arms being too developed. We see that there's nice musculature on the lower body. Stomach is very defined still, but not overly. You're not seeing her serratus pop out or anything. You're not seeing her obliques look feathered. But we're definitely seeing here that shoulders are capped, arms are definitely defined. Even from the back shot, like in my mind, her trap's a little too aggressive here. But beside that, like in essence, it's bikini with slightly more muscle.
Yeah, these pictures I don't think do it justice, honestly.
No, not at all. Especially because this is probably from the first Arnold that we did in the States. Yeah, and I would say this has matured so much for that because like I think of like Extreme Woman as being one of the first people that comes to my mind. Because in my mind,
Yeah.
like she has one of some of the craziest physique, even though she never pulls together on stage. I think she has one of the craziest physiques by far.
Yeah.
Then we'll go right into bikini, right? Bikini again, nice lower body, nothing too musculature. Upper body, not crazy defined at all. Arms really not defined too much at all. Some cap shoulders as well. Narrow waist, but again, nothing's feathered, nothing's overly defined. I know this class also, like every other class, has gotten harder. We want more than this normally now, especially at a higher level. And then let's go into women's physique, right? Women's physique. Grant, we don't coach any women's physique competitors here. Well, same thing. It's
Very similar to women's
bodybuilding.
bodybuilding, just no
Oh,
graininess, no graininess. Very a little bit softer version.
but dude, I will say, like at the pro level this year, I will say every women's physique competitor gave any open bodybuilding guy a
Oh
run
yeah, they gave them.
conditioning
Yeah, they gave
one.
them. Oh, wait, are you talking about women's bodybuilding
No,
or
I would
women's
say
physique?
women's physique gave open male bodybuilding a run for the money this year at the Olympia level. What's her name? Jessica Fit, I think her name is. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, she
I know
said
you're
that she
talking about.
purposely looks she posed to look softer this year in the Olympia. And she saw that as a mistake because they rewarded Natalie for being more conditioned. So we're definitely seeing that obviously that all classes have drastically evolved from what the
I was
standards
just
are.
going based off like what the women's physique thing says is like you're not. They don't want graininess, is what they say.
Yeah, they don't.
But
They say that, and
but
say
now you
don't.
see it like, but then you see it at a bigger level, and they're crediting it.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like
all divisions have, right? We've gotten, and again, us fans dictate where the sport goes to an extent, and
it's true.
we like the extreme. It's extreme sport. So like, Bree, talk to me about your training split. Like how is your training split different than Coleman's right now?
So I have 4 leg days a week. And Coleman maybe gets one, what, a month,
every 10 days.
one every 10 days.
Yeah,
So,
that's all I need.
and that just goes to show, I mean, my division is all based off of how my legs look for the most part. And that is the one thing that definitely needs to continue to keep growing. So, for me to be training with Coleman really wouldn't make any sense, and to go off of his training wouldn't really make any
Yeah,
sense.
no, my training is push, pull, rest, push, push. Wait, actually, I have it. Hold on.
Yeah. So
I got
mine's quads, glutes, maybe a little bit of back and shoulders, and then quads, glutes again. So very, very different. And my body
Yeah,
would look
push,
very, very different if I trained that way.
push
yeah,
one, pull one, rest, push two, legs, rest, pull two, push three, push two, pull three, rest, restart.
yeah. And
That
that's
tail
the
end
thing.
sucks. That tail end is the worst.
It is. You're so sore at the end. You're miserable.
So the two push days don't bother me. It's the pull into the two pushes and then into the pull
Third
day
pull.
again. Like my CNS just shot at that
Yeah.
point.
No, it totally is. But let's talk about like Brie. Like why would Brie ever have multiple push days? Right? Like why? Right?
You want to go to women's bodybuilding?
You want to side chest pose, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at it.
That's one of the big things I like to talk about is that like we should specifically train for the class we're trying to become part of. So
Right.
like when we get a bikini competitor, I'll use this as the example, and I see them bench pressing on their Instagram on a regular basis, and like Ava was a prime example of this. I'm like, Ava, what the fuck are you doing? And she was like, what? I like to bench press. I'm like, I totally understand, but it's not gonna help us, and we're
Yeah,
wasting
we're wasting
this
a
fatigue.
recovery bank.
Yeah, we're wasting fatigue on a group that never gonna help you. Like no bikini girls ever placed better in their whole entire life because they've
Because you
had
can
a
bench a
better.
plate.
No,
Yeah, it's
just
not
Because you can
them
bench a
having a
plate.
chest.
It
They're not
doesn't
looking
matter.
there. They're not
They're
looking.
not. Exactly.
That's like the least of their concerns. They're looking at your shoulders, they're looking at your hamstrings, they're looking at your glutes, and they're looking at your tie-ins. And they're
Yeah.
looking at your stomach to make sure that you have that little bit of conditioning, just the soft right amount.
Yeah. And that's why I've always stressed this to a lot of people in classes like wellness, in classes like bikini, where they're not trying to have extremely muscular shoulders, where you're not trying to have your upper chest defined at all, where you really don't need a tremendous amount of muscle on your upper body. I don't see the point of wasting, again, your recovery bank, your energy, your fatigue on something you're not being judged on.
Exactly. And
And
with my coach previous, I had like 2 back days, 2 leg days, and I had a chest day, and you're like, what in the world? Like, we need to train
Yeah.
the legs and they need to come up. So it's funny how,
but look how much your back has come up without having a back day.
right, just from
Mhm.
deadlifting, RDLs.
And that's the big thing. Like I try to stress to people, like your back gets so much work done from hip hinging movements, and like maybe not direct lat work, but
Right.
you're a wellness competitor, you're a bikini competitor. You don't have a lat pose. Your back shot, you're pinching your shoulder blades down and back. You're
Right,
not
and your
just
hair's covering it.
Yeah, your shoulders are down and in. You're not spreading anything. You're not being judged on your lat. You're being judged that your back's just not fat and has some conditioning.
Yeah.
That's it. And if you are doing hip hinging movements with challenging weights, your erectors are going to be in, your back is going to be defined, and if the conditioning is there because you follow the proper diet and you dieted down correctly and did the cardio and did everything with intent, it will be there. Your back looked nuts this year.
It did. It did look nuts. It still kind of looks pretty good.
You still have kind of a Christmas tree in the right lighting, and we're talking about being what almost 30 pounds above stage weight.
Literally, yeah. Yeah, just touching 30.
Yeah, it's nuts, and that's why I try to stress it so much to people. So, like, what does each division require? We kind of covered that, but what should not, and should train, right? I think if you're competing in bikini or wellness, I think there is not a need for a direct chest movement at all. I don't. I
I
think.
don't think.
I'm
I
not
don't
gonna lie.
think. I don't think. I don't think you need a direct back movement either. I think you need majority to put your emphasis on your shoulder and your legs.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
gonna.
think.
I'll use examples of like how we program here. Like I don't think I have. I think Victoria and Brie are like the only two that have like a back day, and that's just because they have a free day to fill up.
Yeah, actually, Brie
And it's
don't
not.
back anymore.
Yeah, I literally have 2 movements. It's a back and shoulder day. I have 2 movements, and then it's all shoulders.
Well, I mean like a back and what I mean like
Yeah.
using it as like an accessory based.
Right, right, right.
Like yeah, because like I think Victoria even has hers is a shoulder day now
Mhm.
completely because she has 4 leg days and a shoulder day, and I think I'd put 1 back movement in
Yeah,
there just to
there's
keep it there, just to keep it there for her mental clarity,
Yeah.
and that's
And
it. It's not there for anything else, nothing else. Alexa, I can pull up her thing. Alexa has 4 leg days as well, I believe.
yeah.
But
But
I'm not
the,
mistaken.
the thing is this, ready? I don't, again, when we target back in general, what are we trying to target? In a lot of cases, we're trying to target things like upper back, or we're trying to target lats. Now, in a division like wellness or bikini, having a defined upper back is not advantageous. Even if we look at the highest level of the sport, they don't have crazy rhomboids. They may have nice posterior deltoids, and well, you know what? We'll hit that on our shoulder day.
Mhm.
There is some direct lat work in all of our females' plans for the most part, and it's normally something like a single arm pull down
Yeah.
or a single arm row, and that's probably the extent of it. Because yes,
Arm, and then I
we need
use
some lat work. Some.
Alexa. I use the Prime Machine chest supported row, and I only give her 2 sets. That's it.
Yeah,
2 sets, and she has 2 sets of single arm pull downs. That's it. No more. She has
Yeah.
4 sets across her entire week of back. Everything
exactly.
else is all shoulder, glute and hamstring, shoulders again, and then quads. I gave her a quad day.
So let's look at the pose real quick. Why the fuck would my upper back ever matter here?
Exactly.
Doesn't.
No one's ever seen it.
Yeah, no one's ever fucking seeing it.
And it's
So
going to come in with
why?
conditioning. You're like,
Yes. And that's the thing is that like, why am I going to waste a whole entire day to develop pieces of my back that no one's ever going to see when it matters? They'll see it on my Instagram. They'll see it when I go to the beach. They'll see it on my OnlyFans, but they're not going to see it any other time.
exactly.
And same here. Like, okay, you see a little bit more, and it depends on if the person who flips their hair off or doesn't, right?
Right.
But
And
again,
normally no one poses like that with their hair moved anyways.
no.
It's a
Most
really
people,
old picture.
yeah. Most people leave it down.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is that no one's seeing it. So why am I going to waste a whole entire day? And I'm going to waste in essence, if I look over my off season, I'm going to waste about 52 fucking workouts to hit a muscle that no one gives a fuck about.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can
Put
put
it into your
52
legs.
other workouts into something else.
Yeah. And that's how you have to look at it. If it's in your week, it's 52 fucking sessions into your next to the show you just did. 52 sessions. I don't think Bree's back needs 52 fucking back days between last year and this year. I don't fucking think it did.
No, maybe like 10.
Yeah,
Max.
right. Like it did not need to come up that much. And again, your hair's down. No one's seeing your upper back anyway. I understand more muscle means a faster metabolism. And you know what? Let me throw that fucking muscle in a place that matters, where I'm trying to beat someone.
Right. Exactly.
I have never seen a girl place worse because her upper back was not developed enough.
Yeah.
I haven't. But cool. Let's go into figure next. Okay, we did bikini to wellness. We do figure. This is a division where I do believe there should be pressing motions to an extent. I don't think
Very minimal.
Yeah, I would say I think Hannah. We have incline dumbbell press, and the rest are shoulder press movements.
No, because she's transferring over to wellness, so I pulled that away.
Yeah. Oh, well,
But
I
when
pulled
she
back her
when she
volume on it.
did,
Yeah, well, no,
Yeah.
when she was figure, she had two pressing movements per day, and one was chest focused on her upper body days, and then the other one was shoulder focused.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, and again, in a division like this, you really don't have a chest pose, right? You don't. But you can see your upper part of your clavicle. You can see that. So you definitely want some musculature on top, but you don't have a pose.
Just a little bit.
Exactly. And again, like it does, will pressing movements help your frontal deltoid a little bit? 100%. But I rather almost bury more direct frontal deltoid work in that compared to having someone do more pressing motions.
Upright rows, front raises, stuff like that. Simple things.
Exactly. And then like the same exact thing, like in a division like that, what is something else not really judged too much on? Glute development. You should have glutes in that division. They should be there. They do not have to be remotely as round or conditioned or have the same shape in a division like wellness. So I wouldn't see the point for wasting a ton of fatigue, doing a fuck ton of kickbacks, fuck ton of things like that. I wouldn't see the point of it again for a division that isn't judged directly.
I only see it as useful if you're doing it in the morning with your fasted cardio to help with conditioning. That's when I think you can throw in burner sets of like which is what we had her doing for a little while before Universe. We had her doing burner sets on quads, adductors, and I think I had her do kickbacks a little bit for a very, very short period of time.
And like
the very end.
And to be very specific, this was a client that did have an IUD in who did not get it taken out in time. So we were fighting hormones. And that's one of the big reasons behind that is that when someone does have an IUD in, you're literally fighting Mother Nature here. Because hormonally, she wants to store fat in her lower body. She wants to hold in the fat because my body thinks I'm pregnant. So why would my body want to lose fat right now? It really doesn't. So again, I'm fighting Mother Nature in this division.
Just in that situation, not division.
In
that division situation.
But to fit in that division,
yeah,
I
totally am. But like, the other thing is like, all right, cool. So like we all know that Bree's training is much different than Coleman's training, but what could Coleman do Bree's training? It wouldn't be advantageous for him, and this is why like when I see couples work out together and they're both competitors, in my mind, unless you're in a very like if you're both doing bodybuilding, one of you is not serious. One of you isn't. And the reason why I say this is I'll use Cassie. Cassie's doing it for show wellness. There's not many movements that ever overlap of ours. We may have some of the same movements, but the frequency is not there. Like we both have deadlifts, we both have hamstring curls, we both have leg press. She has leg press like 3 times a week. She has like RDL like 3 times a week. I have them once a week. There isn't a single day really where we have everything that overlaps. There's no reason for her to do 16 sets of arms a week like me. No reason, right? There's no reason for her to have a whole entire back day like myself, like we just said. So like, if you're dating someone who competes and you're in 2 separate different divisions, you may have 1 or 2 exercises that overlap each day that you can possibly do together. But there's no fucking way in hell that you both are training to actively win if you have workouts together every single day doing the same movements.
I think it's very rare that my training and Bree's training lines up.
Yeah,
And
that
even
might just
then,
literally
it's
be
still
like quads.
even. Yeah, I think it would be quads, and that's because I can't barbell squat. I can't
Yeah.
get my shoulders back. I physically can't get my shoulders back.
Yeah.
That's what happens over time. But so I hack squat instead because I can control it better. And I feel more activation with my quad anymore with it that way. So it works better for me.
No.
Compared to putting my shoulders back like this and not being flexible enough to do that because I don't do flexibility with my shoulders. That's my own fault, which I can fix.
Yeah. Sakib, help him out, please.
Yeah, I gotta go. I was supposed to go to him after we got back from Texas.
I know.
That was the deal. And I haven't had time. Oh, I have had time. Not a lot of time.
We've had time. We just haven't done it. I got it.
Yeah.
All right.
But I'm sure all of you have seen couples that work out together, and again, like maybe one of them's not in season, maybe one of them's maybe neither of them actively compete, and that's completely okay, right? But like if you guys are actively training to win, to beat people, and that's the one thing that like I feel like, and this is me sounding like an old fucking man, but I feel like a few years ago people actively trained to beat someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing. I think it's a good thing that social media has made everyone more friendly, but I think it kind of stomped out some of the competitiveness that there once was. Because like you couldn't have caught me in my early 20s training with my girlfriend. No fucking way. And it was just because like I literally had the mindset that I had to train to hurt someone's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
That was the goal. Is that and it was literally me and Bruce calling each other a pussy for 2 hours straight every day in the gym. And that's until till we finally decided we did enough volume for that day or train hard enough for that day. But the goal was to actively, and we knew people who were doing the same shows as us. Again, like I think I told you this, that I literally had this kid on the background of my fucking phone for about 18 weeks. Because I knew he was gonna be in my class, and fucking he didn't make weight, ended up going to a class below me anyway. But the whole entire prep, I literally look at this fucking kid's face. I looked at his Instagram. He was a background on my phone. I did my cardio. I looked at this fucking dude every day because I actively wanted to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do that if you're doing glute kicks back with your girlfriend. That's not happening.
I had Josh tell me he was doing big cat when
I think
we had just hit. We started prep 20 weeks out of big cat, so we were about 4 weeks in, and like this was like just barely doing anything. And Josh goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna do big cat," and I was like, "Okay, have fun. I'm gonna beat you." And that was it. That was the end of it. That was the end of the conversation. But he would do it. He would like just randomly text me, and he's like, "Yeah, so how's it going for big cat?" And I'd just randomly like text him back and be like, "It's going pretty good." And then I'd send him an update, and I think we were 13 weeks out of big cat, and I had striated glutes, and I sent it to him, and he was like, "Fuck."
And the thing is, like that competitive nature feeds people, right? Like that
It works.
Yeah, and
And
that's
then when
fine.
Josh
Yo,
and then when Josh told me he dropped out of the show, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, it worked. Like mentally it was there, but
You
then
can get to
I
the
had
point
no
where I
idea
feel like
anyone
it's
else.
that. I mean,
Oh,
that's
like
like
over obsessive.
yeah, like over obsessive and like
I think there's I think
self-destruct
there is a line.
comparing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Um,
there's definitely a line with comparing yourself to others, but I
right.
think it's a little bit different. Like if it's one of your friends or someone you
And the way
know,
that you
I
guys
think
both
it's
did it, I
yeah.
think it was
It was like friendly competition, but it was like
yeah,
more like it wasn't that it was friendly, but it wasn't that friendly.
right. I just wanted to
Oh
separate.
yeah, no, there's a strict line
Yes,
between where it becomes over. Yeah,
I agree.
I agree.
no, I'm totally down for the toxic competitiveness.
Oh,
Mark's
so
like,
am
yeah,
I.
fuck you
Oh,
guys.
so Mark, every single time we trained, I don't think and no, nothing goes to what we're supposed to go to. It goes past it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that like there's a period of time where you leave stuff in the tank, and there's a period of time that you don't.
Mhm.
And I'm all for managing fatigue during contest prep. But I'm again like this is
You
where
also gotta let it run. You gotta let it rip sometimes too in prep too.
yeah, there's this point, and this is where like the yin and the
Competitive
yang
age.
in my mind battle each other because I am totally science based approach. I am, and we're leaving reps in reserve. We're preserving fatigue because if fatigue gets too high, fat loss can come to a standstill. The cortisol will be too high during prep, and this will fuck us later on. But I am also very ingrained in you train till you hate yourself. That you take a set until there's nothing in the tank. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to walk the fine line in between, and that's where the competitive nature allows you to do that. Because there's times in prep, and there's a video of me with Joseph Pincher, training in Apollon, 2 years ago when I was in prep, and I took a set. I want to say like on hack squat, like 6 7 plates, on the Apollon hack squat, like 7 or 8 reps past failure because he didn't let me stop. Um, and it's one of those things that like you typically will not go there unless you're trying to beat someone. And that's like the thing about being competitive in general is that like people at the Olympic level, I'm saying Olympics, not Olympia, Olympic level, no one's running that fast, training that hard, doing all those things for recovery for shits and gigs.
No.
You're doing that because you want to be better than someone. And that's why I strongly believe this sport in general, if you take the sport serious, it will propel you in every aspect of your fucking life. Because if you can get used to suffering to beat someone, you'll work harder to beat someone in sales. You work harder to put someone else out of business. You will definitely put more hours in the work to make sure that you are recognized for who you actually are, and just like we do in our sport.
Right.
But the cool thing about this is that physical pain will teach you to deal with emotional pain, and
Mm-hmm.
will teach you how to deal with emotional stress. Because if you can put up with this fucking hurts, this fucking sucks, but I'm gonna do another one, and I'm gonna do another one, and I'm gonna do another one, you can sit 10 more minutes at your fucking desk. You can make 5 more phone calls. You can send an extra fucking email. Like those things all roll over, and that's why again, like as much as I am for social media bringing people together, I think it kind of stomped out that competitiveness a little bit because I am friends with people who I'm very happy I'm friends with. But if I wasn't friends with them and I knew I was competing against them in a show, I would be way more aggressive on how I train, knowing they're in the show. But now I'm friends with them, so we train together in social.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't. I think once you pulled me away from training,
Mhm.
and just made me straight train with you, I propelled myself a lot farther.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed that. And I specifically remember when you're saying like with pain when I fucked my knee up on the pendulum squat. Like,
Mhm.
what was our third leg day before went to
I think
Texas? Yeah, I fucked my knee up on the first rep, and then we went switched out the movement stuff like that, and then what 4 movements later I took the leg extension to like 140 reps or something like that, and just kept going like. And then I lay down on the floor for like 15 minutes because I couldn't breathe. But
Yeah.
That was dumb. One, I probably should have been done at like 60 reps, but I went and kept going. It was a drop set.
Yeah. But okay, but like, all right, awesome. So I don't want to get too far off topic. I feel like I
I
pulled
know.
way
I'm just saying.
away.
I'm just using it as an example
Oh
for
no, no,
people
no,
to like
no, and
relate it.
that's a prime example. Is being able to push past that because you
Yeah.
were being competitive, right?
Yeah.
Um, enhanced versus non-enhanced athletes when it comes to training program, and this is the big thing. And I blame muscle magazines from when I was a kid for this because I remember doing Ronnie Coleman's 42 set chest workout, or doing like Jay Cutler's like 32 set arm workout. I remember doing this shit from the muscle magazines because again, like
Rich
I started
Piana's
lifting,
arm workout. I
yeah,
did that. I
yep,
used to do
same
that once a week
6 hour arms, 6 hour arms.
when I was yeah, but I would tone it back by a decent amount.
Hmm.
I remember mimicking Rich Piana's 6 hour arm workout, to a T with the shakes and everything. But like when I first started
That's
bodybuilding,
disgusting. That's
when I,
gross.
when I first started bodybuilding, there was not a way to get great information unless you actively paid for someone. I didn't know where to pay for someone. So I did these extremely long, grueling workouts as a natural. And it didn't really make any sense because you could never recover from them. If you are truly doing 32, 40 sets, all this volume to try to partition growth as a natural, a lot of times you're going to set yourself back unless you were training maybe 3 days a week or 4 days a week, so you have more time to recover. There isn't a reason to be in the gym that long and doing that much sets. So the big thing, like I would like to stress when it comes to this, is volume is important, right? But I think as a natural competitor, it's intensity over volume is the true answer. And I strictly believe this for one reason only: being able to truly recover. A lot of people,
Mhm.
possibly from a genetic standpoint, who have better genetics may be able to recover. And like I'll use Peter as an example, or Pete, we call him Pete more so. Pete, for example, recovers.
Oh, PG.
Yes, recovers
PG.
wonderfully, and he has
Yeah.
great structure and very good genetics, as we can clearly see from how his muscles are shaped. I don't think me as a natural would be able to do the workouts he does. I think I'll have to dial them back a little
I
bit.
think I think I only have him at 16 sets a workout, and
Uh,
that's only because I know the recovery bank for him. But that's 16 working sets. That's not including warm up sets or anything like or touch and go sets and stuff like that, which I know he's doing. So I'm probably assuming he's probably somewhere in like the 22 to 25
yeah.
real
Well,
range of
myself right
reps.
now, enhanced, doing my 22 sets, I'm sore for 5 days. So like I'm imagining natural Mark at 31 years old, 12 sets would probably have me fried for 4 or 5 days. And again, 12 sets with high intensity, and not 12
Yeah,
sets.
with an RPE 10. Wait, like
Yeah,
if you're not going RPE 10, like if you're going like RPE 7, stuff like that, you could definitely get away with like 16, 18 sets easily,
yeah,
especially being enhanced.
exactly.
Being enhanced, you can get away with like 30 sets RPE 7, and I strongly believe in that because your recovery time is so much faster.
And again, there's enough food there to support it, right?
Yes.
That's the big thing I'll stress across classes. If you're training for bikini, training for wellness, figure, I don't care. You have to make sure that you're able to recover from your training. And if you're training X amount and you are not enhanced and you feel like you are walking into every single workout sore, you may want to consider scaling it back because a lot of the things you may see online, you may see from other pros, you may see from other people in your division who you're not paying. You're just seeing the content, so you want to copy it because you like the way they look, you like how they perform, you like how they place. Um, if you are not enhanced like they are, especially if again like if you're copying from someone's Instagram, you may want to scale it back a little bit. You may want to reduce one set across every exercise so you have enough to actually recover from. And that's the biggest thing I want to stress with the younger kids because I am seeing this a lot that people are stressing volume, and which is volume is important. And the one thing that we do over the week with all our program is cumulative volume throughout the week, not volume in a day. It's okay, quads were hit 4 times today, 4 times here, 4 times here. So at the end of the week, they had 12 sets, right? Or they hit 8 times here, 8 times here, and 4 times here. So it adds up to this. compared to having a day where there's 24 sets of direct quad movements, right? And that's the big difference here. So I think from a natural perspective, it's again using your own intuition to how you feel, how you were recovering from training, and then just being very, very, very honest with myself. It's, am I sore because I trained hard last session, or am I just sore because I can't recover? And that's the hard one. And like, I would probably play a little safe here because again, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Mhm.
I would play it. You're more sore because you can't recover
Yeah.
because you're probably missing something.
Mhm.
Especially if you're copying someone's workout off of Instagram and stuff like that. You're probably not doing all the exact same recovery methods as well. And that's another topic for another day. But
And
that's
this
that's another big thing.
Mhm. And this goes right into my ladies who are going through the menses at the time, and I understand how different your body feels that week. I personally don't go through it, but I understand from a knowledge based perspective how different it is, and it is completely okay to program that week a little differently because
You can
hormonally you are not in the best situation. So like
you
if
can
you
almost program it like a deload week.
exactly
Ish.
if you dial back
Ish.
volume,
I say ish because there is some genetic anomalies with people.
of course,
Where some people get stronger during their menstrual cycle,
Yeah.
which we've
yeah.
seen. Who was it? Was it was it Philly? Like a couple weeks ago? Yeah, she had a
But
couple
yeah, there
PRs
Yeah, there are
during it.
people. Yeah, there are people who
Like
respond better during that period of time, but like a lot of people don't. And we have a lot of
Mhm.
female clients that their progression slows down that week, and that is completely okay, and that is completely natural, and there's nothing wrong with you for that. But I want you to treat that week as almost a feel it out week. If you reduce volume a little bit, that's completely okay. If you scale back the RP a little bit week, that's okay. Because the chances of you recovering the same exact way that week than you did the previous weeks is pretty slim to none, especially if you're not enhanced. So,
especially with the stress going on in your body. Like
yeah,
that's the biggest thing. So you already have one stressor on your body. Now we're adding a second one. So if we
uh,
can tone back the second one to let your body do what it has to do, it'd be better.
so Bree, let me lean on you here because I don't get a period. Um, so like talk to me. So like during your week, how do you feel from a training perspective?
Well, I mean, so I haven't gotten mine in almost like 2 years now because of my IUD. So I'm trying to think way back to when like I first started bodybuilding and when I was still an athlete. Honestly, I really wouldn't feel any difference in my strength. It was more of just cramps for me and just kind of feeling under the weather, which can, affect your overall workout. But, I would take like Advil and whatever and get through it. But it's also hard to remember being that long ago, the exact feelings. But for me it wasn't too bad, but for speaking for some of my friends, it's a little bit more difficult for them, and it takes a lot out of their day, and it takes a lot for them um to really train hard, I should say.
Hmm. And I understand from the concept of especially like I don't know if your friend group does deal with bad menstrual cramps, but like that's one I hear a lot from some of my clients is, for example, like trying to brace really aggressively to train hard is hard when you're dealing with menstrual cramps.
Yeah.
It's really hard when you have menstrual fatigue and your program says you have to hit this for 8 and you only got 7 last week. So
Yeah.
like that week, I want anyone listening to this to be a little more lenient with yourself and give yourself some grace. Because from a hormone-based perspective, your body is not trying to help you get stronger that week. So be okay and treat that week again. I don't want to say focus on recovery that week, but I say do what you can do, but also be honest with yourself too. Like I don't want you to use the week to take the week off and eat chocolate. Um, but pace yourself. Use your
Yeah.
use your logbook from the previous week. and scale things down. Maybe feel the first exercise out that week, see how it feels. If it feels like you can't hit what you did last week, scale everything down. Don't punish yourself.
Right. I
I
also think it's
completely
important
agree with you.
to compare the logbook and also to look at, when the period started, when you started feeling symptoms, so that you can better manage your fatigue. And then also, the next month, realize kind of when it's going to happen, when you can scale back and when you can push.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. No, I think you're completely right. And
Yeah.
then that's the big thing is that and that's also why it comes to contest prep with ladies. I do think the important thing is a longer timeline because, like we just said, like those weeks. I'm not saying they're wasted weeks by any means, but the weeks when progress may slow down a little bit because training intensity may slow down too.
Yeah, I agree.
But that being said, training intensity based on individuals. And this is again, I want to carry this into everything. So I know I just said a moment ago that I strongly believe that, especially for national competitors, that it's intensity over volume, right? Now, I do think there's so many factors that kind of go into intensity of training. I think it's going to be cumulative volume over the course of the whole entire training session. I think this may be things like how much fatigue we're accumulating throughout the day. Do I have a job like a nurse and I walk 16,000 steps a day? Or do I work in an office and I sit on my ass for 8 hours a day? Do I have a laborious job where I'm moving brick? Or am I moving burgers? Right? It's completely different based on what I'm doing throughout the day. And I think we focus so much on what is just happening in the gym and what's not happening outside the gym. Even like sleep,
Yeah.
right? And like I'll use some of our athletes who are police officers. Some of these people are working overnight shifts and they're coming from an overnight shift and going right to the fucking gym.
Mhm.
And like if
Yeah.
you're doing that, you're coming off you work the whole entire night and you're going right to a training session. And in my mind, like training intensity there may be slightly lower and training volume may be higher. It may be easier to do more volume there than work harder. Again, it's based on so many factors going into it. Even things like how many meals are you having previously going to training? If you're training almost fasted, in those perspectives, I almost want to say you possibly would train more volume and intensity. I know, like myself personally, if I lift later in the afternoon, everything feels way lighter for me.
Mhm.
So I'm used to training at 6 a.m. with one meal in.
Yeah, me too.
On weekends, after I train with 2, 3 meals in, I feel everything feels lighter.
Yeah, it's great.
It is, right? It's like
Yeah.
intensity is easier with more food. It totally is. Um,
I remember when we were training at night and I had 6 meals in before we would train and everything was heavy as hell, but
just prep, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it was better than it would have been if you only had.
But there was also a couple times where I had some PRs during that time too. So
yeah,
it was kind of like it depended on the day.
exactly, and that's how the prep was. Um,
Yeah.
but the next thing I like to go into or want to go into is training and nutrition, right? So the way I like to put this is debt to income. And this is why, like, when people ask me just nutrition, I'm like, no, I don't want your money. Fuck it. And it's just because like there's the combo of the two makes such a big difference. And like I say debt to income because your income is your food you're eating throughout the day, right? And your debt is your training. And these things have to match up based on the actual goal. If the goal is to grow, well, I need more income than I need debt. If the goal is to get more condition and get in shape, now income has to be lower than debt. And that's the thing is that making sure we're eating enough for what we're trying to accomplish in the gym. And I think, and this is, I'm very happy that macros are a thing now. Because, like, I was making a joke the other day. When I started competing at 18 years old, I remember being ridiculed for bringing my food places or tracking things in my fitness pal because there wasn't a single person I knew that did it. Now it's like such a commonplace thing. I'm happy it's a public thing, but I feel like people they kind of lock in the macros and they don't change them too much based on what the goals are. So like, oh, they just know I eat 1 gram of protein per pound, and you know what, I'm not losing fat at this amount of carbs, or I'm not gaining fat at this amount of carbs. I'm just gonna keep them here, And you know what? I'm maintaining with this amount of fat, so I'm gonna keep it here. But they're not keeping track of like, oh, my bench press moved up 5 pounds and my squat moved up this much, and now I'm doing an extra set of this. They're not adjusting the food on this end to keep this moving forward.
Right.
And I always say this, I have never met a person that overate. I haven't. Every single person I've ever met, they ate too many calories, they didn't overeat. They ate like 2 items a day. It's the big thing was they ate the wrong stuff. Now, when it goes back to this, I'm training more intensely. I'm getting stronger. So now I need to have enough income to support this.
Exactly.
Like, look at both of your diets to prep to off season.
Yeah, 4,400 on a rest day.
Yeah.
And I've been losing weight for the past 35 days,
Yeah.
and all I do is walk
Yeah.
10,000 steps a day.
Mine's like 3, I think, or maybe more now. The last time I
Really?
looked, it was like my high day was like almost 3, so it's probably like 3 now.
Yeah. And like again, like you ended prep at like 1,100.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go there, Mark.
Yeah.
I know where I was at.
This
It
is
was in the
all I'll say.
dumps.
When John Meadows won Universe, his diet 2 weeks out was 700 calories. That's all I'll say.
Oh, I was in the dumps.
So if John Meadows can suck up eating below 1,000 calories,
Oh, I could do it too.
anyone can suck it up.
Trust me,
Again,
I'm not I didn't complain about the food at all.
no,
I knew how to figure out I know how to fucking manipulate my fucking food and make it so I'm satiated.
exactly.
I was getting 100 grams of spinach raw instead of cooking it. Like easy, very easy, simple things that people don't even think about doing. It's like, oh, I have this 50 grams of green beans. Okay, switch it out for something else that's better and more voluminous. Like, it's not that hard.
That's why I love eating iceberg lettuce so much.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not a big lettuce person.
I
tried doing romaine for a little bit of it, and no, couldn't get behind it.
Yeah.
Bree was loving her salads.
Oh yeah. I had
I
like
liked my spinach
I had 100
salad.
grams of
Spinach was-
romaine. It was like this giant thing on my plate. I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I did 50 grams of arugula last night instead.
Yeah. That's why I usually get arugula too. Yeah, that's my go-to.
Well, I mean, I was behind on food, so I probably should have done like 100 grams, but I did 50 after I put 50 into the thing. I looked at it and I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be a lot," and I was like, "This is more than like what my spinach would look like with
Put
100
that in
grams."
your check-in.
You did not.
I told him now. I missed. Okay, I think you would rather me miss 50 grams of a vegetable than miss 400 grams of rice. To be fair, I
100%, 100%. If any of you guys are listening to this, I'd rather you skip your fucking vegetable if you're gonna skip your carb. Eat your fucking carb, skip your vegetable if you had to pick one. Please.
I've shoveled 450 grams of rice, and then 90 minutes later did another 400 grams of rice with 5 ounces of chicken, and then 25 minutes after that, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna eat this last meal and shove it all down, and I'll be fine.
He had to go stand outside. He was sweating.
Oh, dude, I forgot what it was like with GHRP6.
Yeah.
I totally forgot, and I was like sitting there, just meat sweats. Just I felt it like come right over me, and I was like, oh, yep, I remember this feeling last year every single day.
So those of you watching who don't know what GHRP6 is, GHRP6 is a peptide that manipulates ghrelin. Ghrelin is a hormone that dictates hunger. So the beautiful thing about GHRP6, especially for someone who's in an off season, it makes you so hungry that you're almost nauseous. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with that feeling. It's like maybe if you skip breakfast, skip lunch, and you're stuck in an office meeting for some reason, and you could eat, you feel so hungry you're nauseous. That's what it does. So if you were ever in a point in your off season where forcing food seems nauseating, take GHRP6 and you will almost break your nose for how fast you shove that plate into your face. Because you need to eat. It's the best.
No, dude, I'll say that like it works, and I've never had any time where I've never had it not work. and you don't need much of it at all. I think. Actually, I'm not gonna say that.
I would say
You don't need a lot.
I would say 100 to 200 micrograms, and you're in a wonderful spot. I don't think many people need much more than that. Granted, you can go up to the 500 if you really wanted to. I don't think you remotely need that much. I think you'd feel so nauseous from hunger. You'd have a bad time.
I feel nauseous in the first 30, like 3 minutes. The
Yeah.
first 30 seconds is when I get like the salivation feeling, and my mouth becomes like over salivated, and that's kind of how I know it's like working. And then
Yeah.
like 3 minutes later, then I get like the stomach feeling where it feels like your stomach just wants to like expand, but it can't. Like that like weird feeling like when you're that hungry.
Exactly.
Not a fun feeling. And then you
So
start eating.
I love it, dude. I love it. So I don't want to. I want to kind of wrap things up a little bit. So in closing, for the most
Oh wait,
part,
I think we forgot to go on to men's physique. I think it's the last thing we didn't go into.
men's physique. I'm sorry, you're training like a bodybuilder.
Well,
But-
training like a bodybuilder, 1 leg day a week, mainly chest and shoulders and back, and deadlift a lot.
Yeah, that's honestly when it comes.
Or you could rack. I mean, I do see a lot of men's physique guys rack pulling a lot more, just because it's more erector work,
Yeah.
which is I think it's smarter for a longevity standpoint. But I think
I think
from a
rack pull-
from a bro logic standpoint, everyone's gonna judge the fuck out of you for it. Like,
This is what I think. I think rack pulls are one of the most wasted exercises. I think
wait, hold on. I grew my entire back last off season, and I deadlifted 3 times, and I rack pulled the rest of the time.
I think you grew your back from doing every other back movement. I strongly believe that cushion for a rack pull is not enough to really generate the grow back. And the only reason
If you don't have it, even if you have it set up
I
to
think
mid
below,
shin,
I think if yeah, they have to do mid shin at that point. And almost if you do
Yeah.
the mid shin, you're
it's
pretty
like
much
you're doing like a half an RDL at that point, but it's
yeah, but most people don't rack pull below mid shin. Because then
yeah, most people don't. I will say that, but
and at that
I was
point, I would say a rack pull below knee is in essence a dead stop partial deadlift. I wouldn't call a rack pull at that point because like I'm not calling any names, but I see a bunch of people at PSA who literally rack pull at knee height. So I don't think you're building anything moving 3 inches. I don't. Ask your girlfriend, not you, Coleman, but anyone listening. Ask your girlfriend. What does 3 inches do? It's not doing anything.
I was like, damn, that one hurt. I
um,
was like, fuck. Okay.
No, but what in reality, like, what is 3 inches of movement doing to stimulate a muscle? Not much. And I'm talking about
Not
anything.
much unless you're doing like a straight strength based program and you're a strongman and you're
Yeah.
using that like a pin press or something like that just to use that top end lock to like nail that top end lockout. And I only know that because of Chuck on Aries.
Yeah,
I
no.
watch a lot of his stuff. And he's is he a strongman or a powerlifter? I don't remember.
Strongman, yeah.
Okay, so he's a strongman. Yeah, I watched him do like max banded pin presses.
Yeah.
I've never seen more bands on a bar, and I've never seen a bar whip that much with bands on it. And he's moving it maybe 2.5 inches.
Yeah,
but that's a lot of stress.
Well, there's the place, and it's not in bodybuilding, right? This is
bodybuilding 100%. There's no place for it.
Sports specific training, and this will again a lot of special things that apply to powerlifting and strongman that don't really apply to our sport because they're all strength based, they're technique based, they're more so getting into position more than anything else. Things that we don't have to worry about here.
But I won't teach someone how to leverage pull sumo deadlift.
We're never going to teach someone how to leg drive on bench press either, right? Because it's not going to help us for
when am I ever gonna program barbell bench press? Never. Yeah. I'll put you on a Smith machine.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna put you on a free weight because there's too many variables to go through, and I don't know how good your shoulder health is.
Yeah.
Because I'm not you as a person.
Yeah.
And especially with the weights that normal bodybuilders put up and stuff like that, you're really severely impacting it.
Yeah. And again, risk to reward, right? But that being said, in closing, make sure that if you're training for a specific class, that you really are looking at what the class requirements are. On the NBC website, they have all the class requirements. They tell you what the big difference is between classes like bikini wellness. All these things are now out there as a resource for you. So I strongly recommend that you use them. If you're bikini, you shouldn't be doing like heavy dumbbell rows. Like this isn't a thing you should be doing. Or if you're a woman who's trying to do wellness, you shouldn't be doing incline bench press. Like these are things that don't really serve you. So do try to look into these things to help your season. Nothing here is here to discourage anyone. We just want you to be the best versions of yourself. So, beside that, do any of you guys have anything we're in closing?
Train the muscles you need, not the ones you don't.
All right, Bree.
Mark, you did really well with that. I like everything that you said.
That being said, guys, I appreciate you all watching MVP Coaching Corner. If you have any questions, please shoot Coleman, Breanna, or myself a message. Thank you again for watching. Take care until next time.